flowing in today, some familiar faces and some new faces to me. So really exciting to see what, fantastic support you're getting for these lunch and learns. And, believe me, it's not to be underestimated, because there's a lot of people offering free connections and opportunities to get together. And people are getting pretty fatigued with some of these catch-ups. So the fact you're still getting a wonderful audience here is really commendable. So well done. So I was really delighted when Angie invited me along to chat today, because I've been sort of helping business owners in the last 18 months transition into online business space with online courses and helping them launch those. So obviously, prior to COVID-19, this was something I was coming from a background in teaching and copywriting, which really brings together education and marketing, and applying those skills to help people sort of unpack the ideas that they had in their head and turn their knowledge-based businesses into an information product that they could then sell and create that elusive passive income in their business. So that was all ticking along really lovely. I ran a course on my own course last year, and then this year I was building up to a much bigger sort of opening the doors to my own online course. And suddenly COVID arrived and everybody had to go into lockdown. Now I also help small businesses with a government advisory contract in coaching. So I see a lot of different small businesses, and I also have my own private coaching clients. And what I saw was suddenly everybody who had, we've often thought, I expect, I might like to do an online course, or you've seen a peer or colleague produce an online course and it's on your to-do list. Well, suddenly those to-do lists just literally brushed the dust off, and everybody was ready to act. And it was one of the most, it was a real sign of a huge resilience. So although, we had that shock, and I mean, some of my clients, their businesses on the Monday were thriving, and by the Friday afternoon, they'd shut their doors. So we had this, people were reeling from, the shock and the changes. But literally within a week, they were reaching out to say, I've been thinking about an online course. I know you're talking about online courses, or how can I take my business online? And like I say, that ability to hit the ground running while still even just getting your head around the changed circumstances, I found that really inspiring. And so I thought I'd share with you a couple of examples and stories of what I saw in terms of the changes people made. And then, sort of happy to talk about passive income and that sort of the active element of passive income, really. So a yoga teacher who I've been working with, she's got a yoga studio. And now she saw me last year and was very interested in thinking about online courses, but she had a thriving in-person business. So there was no pressing need. And I think that's probably one of the things that holds us back from taking that next step, is sometimes not knowing where to start, but also we've actually got a lovely income source that seems really stable. We're loved by our clients, and we don't have that need, that sudden pain point to respond to. So once her, everything got locked down and her yoga classes could no longer run, she literally just turned things around very, very quickly and found a platform. So she used Vimeo to host her videos and videoed herself doing her yoga classes, was able to offer people a 10-week class package, so released week by week. So just as you would be doing classes with her normally, now you get them via email. And obviously all of her existing students were absolutely desperate to continue their practice with her. And, more than ever when we're all sort of at home, we need some outlet. So that was awesome. But what she started to see was a new market reach. So myself included, I'm a big fan of hers, but she's up near Fremantle, so, and I'm down in Secret Harbour, so way too far for a commitment to a yoga class. But suddenly, as soon as her classes went online, I was just like, oh, hallelujah! I've been waiting to do yoga with you all this time. I was one of the, first in to buy those classes. And that's going to enable her to suddenly see the opportunity to go beyond her existing reach and her existing clients. So that was very exciting, and I can't wait to see. Now she's going to start to open her doors again as we start to see smaller groups gathering. It'll be really interesting to see how she can then continue to build on that great work that she's already got in place, because now she's got a digital product ready to think about being a little bit more strategic with, rather than creating under pressure. So another lady who I worked with, who's actually in my course with me, she does handmade artisan soap. So her business generally was depending on markets and sort of, lots of gifting and so on. So Christmas was a huge area for her. Lots, she's a physical product, so she's out in, and it's a highly competitive market in the handmade soap space. I don't know if you've ever been to craft markets. There's at least 3 or 4 people there. What she found is since COVID hit, her business has actually taken off more than it had before, because although all her events and her markets and everything was shut down, she pivoted in a couple of ways. Firstly, she started to make DIY kits that she could post out to people. So we had kids at home bored, parents wanting productive activities, maybe less screen time. And suddenly she could send out, there was little parties, so kids with birthday parties, they would do lip balm parties, so you'd make the lip balm together virtually, but she'd send out the kits. So she had that dimension straight away, and that saw her so busy that she was run off her feet. In the meantime, she was also planning her online course. And again, that prompt of, okay, I could see the potential for my business to go online and share knowledge in this way, has prompted her to take action. So she now has created a how to make soap at home course. So if you've ever been interested in making handmade soap, that's there now. Excuse me. And so that's ready to launch. I would say she's in my course with me at the moment, and I would say she'll be launching sort of end of June, but she's already in that preparation phase of thinking about nurturing an audience of people who may currently buy handmade soap, love it, but have never thought about making it or never thought they could make it. So it's that sense of, I can share my knowledge with you so that you can do something fun, enjoyable, and pretty healthy and wholesome for yourself at home. And then
that's a great idea, Lisa. I'm up here in Kununurra, so working among the remote Indigenous communities. So something like that for them to be able to buy the course and then to watch the course and then start producing their own soap. So like you said, she's going to be able to attract a target market she probably hasn't had before. And so, I mean, I'd be keen to connect with her in regards to that, and maybe be able to get the course out just to some of our communities.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. And she's very proactive around trying to help people make the soap with everything they've got already in their kitchen. So and if there are specific stockists and suppliers, she's already identified who they are and how to buy and how much. So it's a very comprehensive, thorough course. So yeah, I absolutely would love to connect you with her. And again, I tend to sell myself into things because I love people's products so much. So I'll be lining up for that course as well. But then the other lady that I'm working with, well, a couple of interesting ones. One is an actress based in the UK. And she's been out of drama school for about 3 years. Now, obviously, we know that choosing acting as a career, you've got quite an unpredictable lifestyle. When all events and entertainment shuts down, anything you did have going stops. And again, she was really just stuck. She's in her sort of mid-20s, so quite early on in life and career. And she decided that she's already been doing drama classes through her church with the children, and that she could actually run and put together a drama program online for people. So instead of necessarily, it will be performance skills, but she's focused it on how to create your own performance. And so again, I've been helping her to see, obviously she's really focused on the children that she's going to work with and the performance skills they're going to get. But I'm thinking from a parent's perspective, as a parent, I'm going to be paying for the course, so we need to think about how we market this to parents. And often performance skills are, strongly associated with confidence and a sense of self-presentation and so on. So there's a lot to be said for her from an educational and a personal development perspective, to be able to market that course to parents who are interested in building those skills within their children. So that's just a little taster of how people's businesses went from thriving and kind of normal, what was normal, to something totally different, but they've all just thought outside the box, reached out for some support around what could I do here, and then just run with these wonderful ideas that we're seeing, some really great courses coming from that. So I wanted to just share with you, you hear when it comes to online courses, you'll hear a lot about passive income. And in fact, it's actually sort of, the dream that while you are, you wake up in the morning and PayPal's already delivered over $10,000 worth of sales into your account overnight. And woohoo, it was so easy. And there are definitely course creators out there who have an incredible passive income business. And, that is true for them. But it's a really interesting misconception as well, because passive income takes active intent. So we don't, the ease that it implies, it's a long-term game. And it tends to be something that over time you are able to automate and sell your courses and be quite strategic about how money flows into your business in these alternative ways. And so there's a little bit of work at the beginning to build that passive income pathway. But once it does start to establish and you start to get more brain space, because all of it takes quite a lot of brain space initially. Each time you release your course again, or you create a new product, you get another string to your bow, and slowly but surely you do get yourself into a position where, like I say, if things change overnight, you've already got an alternative revenue stream in your business. I did have a great example though recently. Sarah Thompson, who I've helped with her launch, she's been in massive creation mode since COVID came in, and she's
Sarah Thompson, online. So what's it? Online
social butterfly.
Amazing woman. Yeah.
And she is like a bit of a dynamic energy. But she's been so I helped her launch her Facebook marketing course, but since then she's created a Facebook groups course and an Instagram Academy course, and those are just the two that and she's published an ebook. So she's just in that creation phase. But one of the things I loved, I had a text message from her most recently when she launched her Facebook groups course saying, I've just come back from walking the dog and I've made 10 sales. And it was just, that was that living the dream. It's not retirement money yet, but it was that sense of I can be out walking my dog and making sales. All the hard work had gone before, obviously. So
there's a lot of Lisa, a lot of Sarah in her courses. So I think the trick is to still inject the essence of you in what you're delivering. And I think if you lose you in that process, the courses are just like any other course. And I think what she's captured is she's really captured the essence of her. So you don't feel that you're doing it remotely, even though you are.
yes,
That's important. A lot of work must go behind that, I would say.
yeah, and there is, I think the real key to an online course, especially if you're selling directly to entrepreneurs or to clients and customers, as opposed to a corporate organization, is that you need to, like you say, inject that personality, because people are actually, they're not often choosing the subject matter, they're choosing you. And you're like any, I'm sure you may have heard the expression, students learn teachers. So the idea that the teacher, you can all think of a teacher that changed our lives, that just made a subject come to life. So it's you, the teacher, that brings everything to life. And so I'm always a big fan when we're doing, if you're going to do video component in your courses, of being very human, being who you are. And if I record and I have a little slip up, or I say something a little incorrectly, as long as it's not completely disastrous, I'm just I leave my stuff unedited wherever possible, because it will enable people to know who I am, what I'm all about, and I want that sort of raw contact, like you're describing, Angie, that sense of working with me, and that's what we sometimes want to edit out of ourselves, but actually it's the bit that makes you truly you.
For sure. And you don't feel that you're doing it on your own. You know that person's behind you, and that's important, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that stops people moving towards that online course stream, and I'll make this my last point, and then open floor, is that sense of overwhelm around where to start, because there are so many moving parts. It would be like, I've got a great idea and I know what I want to create, but I don't know where to start. And that actually sounds so simple, but I found that's probably the commonest when I, ask people what's stopping you, or what's the biggest struggle. It's I don't know where to start, or it's the tech. We have a real fear around how we might deliver this online, and tech elements are actually one of the simplest parts of the online course creation process. Although it doesn't feel like that until you've got into the other bits where you think, actually, this is where getting the clarity and the messaging and what we're actually delivering, that's the bit that where the time investment is. But the actual tech can be quite simple. So, the biggest message I could leave you with is get started.
That's right. So, Paula, I know you've done many. You offer many online courses, don't you? And she was saying this morning that it was a welcome break coming on here today from editing one of her recent courses. So there's a lot of work that goes behind it, isn't there? Let your audience down.
There absolutely is. So the one that I'm doing at the moment, and I wish I wouldn't have started, because as Lisa knows, once you start, you have to finish. So I'm here right in the middle of editing a course which has 54 videos in. And so I'm in the process of editing number 33. This is my lunch break from editing. I thought if I was going to be in lockdown, I may as well do something productive. So I do lots of little short courses, and I do lots of online virtual presenting as well for my corporate audience. But this has been quite a long course. But the content was actually already created because I'm actually putting my second book into an online course. So a lot of the scripting, a lot of the course was already created. But even then, even though the content was there was still 4 full days of filming, and that was like 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. So 4 full days of filming, and I think it will be maybe hundreds and hundreds of hours of actual editing. However, saying that, at the end of it, there will be a really good product that I'll be able to sell for years to come. And the reason it is so large as well is because I won't just be selling it to consumers. This particular course will be sold into the corporate market as well. So, yeah, so, and it's not just the videos, you know, there's lots of other online documents and links and all sorts of things has to be put up into an online platform, which is actually a question for Lisa about the online platforms. There's always, you know, I have my clients as well. So like Lisa, I do a lot of coaching with businesses also around this, as you can probably see my little things in the background. Are you a Thinkific fan? Are you a Kajabi fan?
I'm a Teachable girl.
Oh, okay, a third option is Teachable.
Yeah.
I'm a Kajabi girl, yeah.
I really love Teachable's simplicity, so I don't love tech at all. So it's like I do bring that sense of if anyone is I'm afraid of the tech, it's me. So I'm looking for the simplest option, and then I know I have ConvertKit as my email marketing software. So, you know, when you've got two things, I know them really well now, and they play nicely together. So it can't be better. But I think the key there is when you choose a platform, the thought of moving then, it's like worse than moving house. It's just like the thought of migrating all your content. So it's kind of like do spend some time thinking about where you want to be for the future at the beginning, because like I say, moving is not fun. So I think you get really settled where you are.
And for those that may be wondering what we're talking about, in case, so once you've created it, you have to put it somewhere. So, and there's so many platforms now which are just plug and play. So Thinkific, Teachable, Kajabi, it's almost like once you sign up to one of those platforms and you've got videos, it's as simple as upload video, upload PDF, upload such and such. So it's all plug and play, and it's very, very simple. So you don't have to figure out how to put it up on your website. And most of these integrate with your website as well, which is fantastic. And some of them as well have landing pages and lead generation pages and sales processes all built into the plug and play platform. So it's actually easier, you know, than you think it is. Well, easy once you know how as well. Once you've done it once, it's and you're through that first hoop, and you can just keep on going and doing it.
Daryl Griffin, for those who don't know Daryl, he is a LinkedIn expert, doesn't cut it, mentor doesn't cut it. Daryl lives and breathes LinkedIn and is quite an amazing, well, you are, Daryl, you know you are. But a couple of years ago, I remember you and I having a chat, and you went down this, there's nothing COVID prescribed for you for what you did. I think you took it out there so you could take your knowledge out to more people at the same time. And essentially, that's what you did, I think, about a couple of years ago. And yours goes into both the corporate world and the single operator entrepreneur. I'm right, am I?
Yeah, so I'm almost entirely in the B2B sector. I think most of Lisa's examples were B2C, but I'm sure she has some B2B clients as well.
She does.
I use a platform called Podia because of the very strong membership element to it. So I have created an online course, but actually it's better for me to build a tribe rather than sell a course, because I have a strong coaching element to what I do. So I use Podia because I can sell memberships. So I'm about to launch Proactive, which is proactive without an E on the end, which is essentially a 6-month weekly LinkedIn program, take you from 0 to hero, but it takes time. So you get a weekly video and a monthly Zoom Q&A and a capped price coaching if you need some one-to-one help, and there's some other element which I can't remember off the top of my head, but essentially I can sell that, you see, for $15 US a month globally. But the key to all of this, whether it's an online course or any business, is in the sales and marketing. You can create lots of things, but fall over when it comes to having a market to present it to. So I've probably spent the best part of 5 years, honestly, building a very strong expertise base with my community. So as and when I launch new ideas, I've already got some interest. So I think it's actually, look, let me be honest with you, I've just come out of a year of burnout and depression. So I've been doing some hard yards on the personal level, but it's actually, I think it's quite hard if you've never done something like this before, and this is why what Lisa's doing is really helpful. It's actually quite hard to actually go from never doing something like this to giving it a go. I know the personal barriers that I had to overcome, even though I've been a trainer for some time, the personal barriers I had to overcome to actually go, okay, I'm going to turn this into an online thing, even though I teach LinkedIn. I was doing workshops and I was doing coaching, and that was safe for me because I felt in my comfort zone. But taking it online, even though actually the process is a little bit easier than you think, it can be very daunting because it looks like a mountain. And that was my experience, but I pushed through, and now I've come out the other end of this tunnel that I've been in. I'm ready to, almost ready to launch 3 new products, which is quite exciting.
That's really exciting, Joel. It's massive. And I think, talking about mountains, let me tell you that Lisa knows all about that. Her and her family climbed Kilimanjaro. 12 months ago, Lisa? 12 months, maybe?
Yeah, it was about just over 12 months now. We came back last year, January.
So it must have been on your mind when you were climbing that, as Darryl said, this is a mountain for a lot of people. So just to bring those 2 comments together. And Darryl, I think what we talked about, I know you, Paula, you already have big audiences. So to try to create a course and have it, and then try to bring an audience to it would be a mistake, I would imagine, because you can't build it and hope that they may come, because it doesn't work that way. So I think Alta and Brian, I know you work in that corporate world there, quality standards, ISO and all of those things. So you're dealing in that corporate world. I'm assuming you're looking now to take your knowledge out through courses into that corporate world. So Lisa, do you have any specific advice for Alta. Am I right, Alta, Brian? Is that where you're going?
Absolutely, yes. We were about to ask some questions too. So yes.
Great, please do. Please do.
Yeah, no, go for it. Yeah.
Do you have a specific, give me a little bit of background on what you guys do?
Cool. Whatever makes money legally.
That's a great scope.
Yeah. We have all sorts of great ideas, but we've been doing running a lot of training courses, which are 5 days with a 3-hour exam at the end. So we stand up in front of an audience of people and we go through the material, or we sit together with them and go through the material at length. So as you were saying, there's a lot of your personality goes into the way you present, and different people deliver the same material in different ways. So we wanted to go online with that stuff, so that we could at least get it out to people that want to do self-study, because more of that stuff is becoming self-study now. So, and the people that provide us with the material and the certification after you've passed the exam are now getting very testy about their intellectual property. And now you can't even get the material. Now everything is going to be done with a presenter that records it on a video, and then you sit and watch the video. So they're getting stuck into that sort of thing, so that they can protect their IP. Now, we've got stuff in our heads which we present differently to them. And we've had to run courses for customers, some major corporates, like 10, 20 people in the room, to try and teach them a fundamental principle or piece of the whole idea of an ISO standard, like a risk assessment and so on. So that you can buy courses and you can do courses on how to do a risk assessment, but they're all vanilla and bland. And I've found that the best reaction is to get people in a room and get them to apply what you're telling them in a workshop. So we've been running what we call syndicated workshops, where we put up to 15 people in a room. We break them down into 4 teams. We give them a day of theory, intense theory. Then the next day we give each team a different task to do within that scope. They go away for that morning and they work out the answers to that, and then they do the presentation of their answers to the other 3 teams in the afternoon, and that's where we cross-pollinate. And that seems to work quite well with corporates, but there's got to be another way of doing this. We'd rather do that as an online interactive course, or even if we could record some of those concepts in the theory course and present that in the right way. So your point about bringing your personality and bring yourself into the way you present is so important, and that's what sells. And what you tend not to know is that you're actually building a reputation for yourself as a presenter.
Yeah, and often it's the examples you give, the way you frame information that gives people those aha moments. And it sounds to me like you've got the challenge of conveying theory, but then also needing to have some levels of engagement strategies. So it depends on, like in terms of the strategy you take. Conveying theory is like you say, we can do that through recordings and making that very personal with the examples you're using, as if you're teaching in a classroom. But it sounds like a lot of the value comes from people sharing and connecting and building those those new learnings together. Now there are lots of virtual ways to do that, but that's the decision around how much facilitation will I be offering online, or do I want this to run as a self-paced? And in all honesty, I don't know, how many people have done online courses here yourselves, but I know the ones that I did that were self-paced, that had no elements of accountability or facilitation, very unlikely that I finished them. I might have done day 1 when I felt excited, and day 2 when I found a bit more time, and then I dropped off. And that's really classic with online courses, especially the self-paced variety, because we get excited, we start at the beginning, and then we don't have the accountability elements in place to keep going, or we get stuck and we don't have any sense of benchmarking against, am I on the right track? Is this okay? Is this not? So there's no individual feedback, or there's no way to see if I'm gone way past where I should have gone. So those engagement strategies and how we provide accountability and build community are absolutely critical to our successful outcomes for our students. So that would be that decision around how can we facilitate, and there are some amazing, we've got Zoom breakout rooms that you can use, but again, that does require some live facilitation. And there are lots of ways we can build that in, but that would definitely be considering the scalability, because if we build in an element of accountability and facilitation, we need to be physically present to do that, as in present online. But there are lots of ways we can start to sort of look at that, what model would best suit the outcome for your student, so that they're going to get the success that you want them to have. Yeah, I don't know if that sort of generally spoken to that space. It's quite a specific challenge, and building your audience around your marketplace. When we were talking about that, I was thinking of my other client who he is B2B, so he's the recruitment guy, so he's very much specifically in university student recruitment, so very niched, and has done, just like you, lots of 2 to 3 day big trainings, and wants to take that online. So the first step for him was breaking down these trainings. When you go in person into a corporate environment, lots of people attend. So the managers attend, the people doing the job attend, the admin staff all attended. But when we're talking about a training quite specific, he found that he broke, his 3 day training actually down into 3 different trainings targeted at 3 different audiences with much more relevant information. Because it's lovely to go out for a day, out from the office to train for a day and have free lunch and everything, but when you've actually got to do the online courses, it was a different proposition. So it turned out that we had 3 courses within what he was presenting as a 3-day, one sort of set of material. So yeah, it can be quite different.
That's interesting you bring that up. I've just had an interesting experience. My last trip to go and do an audit was in March, and I got back on the Wednesday and everything was locked down on the following Monday, and I had 2 more audits to do. So we did them online. Now that was unheard of. Nobody ever done that before. What I found so fascinating was that everybody was out of the office. And these were customers over in Africa there. They were out of the office, they were in their homes. One guy was working in his garage, but they pulled their entire team together at the right time, at the appropriate time, with the meetings all set up so that we could actually run the audit. And everybody participated with great enthusiasm without having to go to the office. They liked it so much, they said, we're not going back to the office again. So, and true, some of them aren't. But my point is that you can do this stuff online with a community, which I've never experienced before, provided you've got something common that people need to get together to talk about. So if you're running a training course, you can provide them with the material to work through with, as you say, get together meetings that you can go through tasks, etc., as you go along. And that could work. It means you can do that from absolutely anywhere in your home, etc. So that could be one way of getting communities together. And I like Daryl's point about building what he called a tribe, because the more you do this with people, the more they actually will subscribe to what you're doing, and you can build a good network across your particular interest area, I think, if we do it that way.
Brian, if
anybody's had that experience.
Yeah, it's interesting what you just said, because as I was listening to the exchange between you and Lisa, then having a corporate background myself, and in the area that you had, I know how many people hide under the desk when you guys come in and say you're going to train people. Because it's they're doing their job and they think they're doing a good job and they don't need what you have to give, and it's usually imposed on them. So I get exactly where you're coming from. And I just thought that, well, what I know from what Daryl has done, and we've known each other for a few years now, is that he is, my words, but I would say Daryl is a purist in LinkedIn. Don't use it to sell. Don't try and sell it. Don't give me a sales pitch. Don't do that. So I don't want to know what awards you've won. Don't do it. Just build relationships. And that's what Daryl is all about. But the purpose of why do you build those relationships is clearly to get sales, to get customers, to connect to people. And we all work with people that we like to give work to people we know and trust. So I think on here, this is taking an entirely different tone to any of my other luncheon chats, guys, I have to tell you, because this is much more meatier, and I can see where we've had nice little interactions before, there's some real genuine connections that should be made. And Alta, you and Brian should definitely be connecting with Daryl, because if you don't build your tribe, you're talking to a wall, really. And obviously, all of you, if you want to look at a course, should be talking to Lisa.
Yes.
And the good thing about Lisa, again, and I'm talking about you guys, I'm sorry, it's rude in front of you. But what I always say to people with Lisa is, if you're thinking of doing a course, let's just say the soap making lady that was the sample that Lisa gave us,
Yes.
or you're in the corporate world, what you do when you talk to somebody like Lisa, same with Daryl, and you, Paula, because I know I've done your workshops, but when you are dealing with people that have that integrity, if they can't help you, they won't take your money.
Yeah.
And that is really important to me at any level. And what I have witnessed for 40 years of my corporate experience, I've always been furious watching big businesses rip off small businesses. But in the last 10 years, what I've watched is that small business have no compunction in ripping off other small businesses too. So knowing who you can take your journey with is critically important. And I had some advice from my mum when I was growing up, and she said to me, people will always show you who they are when you first meet them. It's entirely up to you if you acknowledge it or not.
Yes.
You usually find out the hard way later on if you ignore it, but I'm so thrilled to get you guys together, because these are the connections that are going to get us, all of us, as a community, as a society, out of this enormous financial burden we're leaving our children and grandchildren because of COVID. So being productive, employing people, all of those things are so critical. So that's my lecture for today, folks. Does anybody else want to ask Lisa any questions? Hi,
I was
Joy.
just going to add, if that's okay, to Brian, and I'm sure Lisa, would agree with this, is a lot of people are racing towards online courses for the sake of doing an online course or virtual presenting. And at the end of the day, like my industry was one of the first to go. Every conference got cancelled within 24 hours.
Yeah.
All trainings got cancelled. So my whole tribe is the professional speaking industry, and it just disappeared overnight. So, but instead of racing to the course, it was like what Brian was saying before. It's like people don't look to go and buy an online course. They look for expertise. The online course, the virtual delivery, whatever, it's just the modality that we're going to be choosing. So they're choosing us, they're choosing our expertise. We just have to figure out which is the best modality to present that expertise in. Yeah. And sometimes it is just a self-paced online course, other times it's a virtual workshop, other days it's a 3-day online journey. And sometimes it's a blended mix of all three. But don't forget, you're not selling an online course, you're selling your expertise. Your online course is just your modality that you're choosing on how to deliver those courses, because we're not allowed to be in the same room with them. Well, not yet anyway.
That's great.
We had Ron Gibson on last week. I don't know how many of you know Ron, perhaps, I'm sure.
We all know Ron.
Yeah, and as we know, Ron is the original networker for Perth, the original WA networker. And I hate to say this, but I went to one of his workshops about 35, 40 bloody years ago, which is horrendous. How did that happen? Anyway, and it was really interesting. He gave a presentation last week, and my first thoughts were, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because Ron was saying exactly the same thing 35, 40 years ago as he says now. But what he's found is, he's not a tech guy, and he's a face-to-face guy, and that's what he's built his reputation on, building relationships and follow-up and all of that. And many of his work with corporates has gone on through this time, but it's done through Zoom. And he's been quite shocked at how personable these Zoom sessions have become. They're not remote, and they've enjoyed them. So, he's really enjoyed them, and he's had feedback from his clients, his corporate clients, that many of their participants have just felt that this is much more positive, much more effective, because I haven't had to drive somewhere and park a car and go in. It cuts all the the BS out of it, and we all look a little bit like the Muppet Show, I know, but it has worked for them, and Ron has been quite surprised at that, and I think he's sort of saying, long may it continue. And guys, we're sort of coming to the end of our hour, and I want to make sure that anyone wants to ask any more questions of Lisa, they can do. So anyone want to make a comment? Or yes, Daryl, please speak straight to Lisa. You're muted. You're on mute.
Lisa, do you have any experience with affiliate marketing?
Only a little. So it's something that I see people doing really effectively. But it is quite a strategic approach in its own right. So I wouldn't lay claim to having any great experience in that space. But I know that it's something that it tends to, what I'm hearing is that people who are established in their course creation and, have that audience and have that course are then either, instead of creating a new course, they're possibly becoming affiliates for a big course provider. So a colleague of mine has just become, again, she's got an effective course that's launched about 6 times now, and she was thinking, what next for me? And she's become an affiliate for Amy Porterfield's digital course academy. So big players, that was a strategic move as opposed to creating more new content. It's aligned with, but then of course, then I also see on platforms where multiple course creators are looking for affiliates to co-promote. So there is a huge amount of opportunity, but yeah, I'm not the expert in that space. So I'm not sure who to pass you on to there either. I can certainly keep my ears open as to who's sort of doing that really well.
Okay, no, I'm in the same situation as you. Fumbling my way along with a lot of this stuff. So yeah, if you do stumble across anybody and a particular platform that you think is better than, because there's lots of them now.
I watched some YouTube videos just last night, actually, Daryl. So I'll try and track them down and send them to you. And it was about affiliate marketing. And
right.
Yeah, so I'll send that to you if I can. Marie, you wanted to ask Lisa a question?
Yes, Lisa, I was just after a couple of tips or a link or something to that effect, resource around how you go about making decisions about the pricing of your course. I know obviously there'll be a number of layers and context and who your target market is, but I wondered if you just had a couple of tips as a starting point.
I think there's, again, your market. So it tends to be whenever we have a question regarding our online course or any of our products that we create, the place to go back to is who's our ideal client and what's their price sensitivity. And that tends, because we face pricing and we tend to think, oh my goodness, where do I even start? There's such a range and what will people pay? But you have an ideal client for your particular market, your product. What is their price sensitivity? I know that it really does vary very widely. So I've seen a parenting coach marketing to new mums with babies 0 to 5 months. Now their price tolerance is, relatively low compared to entrepreneurs who are investing in something that's going to have a perceived return on investment financially. So it really does mean understanding the market price and what's in that space and what their tolerance is. I do think there's a couple of strategic things going on in pricing though. I'm seeing quite a lot of $27 courses coming out. I don't know if any of you have seen those. They tend to be an interesting, again, very strategic approach around it's a sales funnel. So a $27 course that looks like irresistible value. So, how to launch your course, all the launch planning and all this for $27. So it's like a no-brainer decision. As you buy that course, there'll be something called a tripwire or an upsell that immediately offers you the next most irresistible thing, which often is quite irresistible because it's like the next piece of the puzzle and you can get it for this price for a limited time. And so what they're doing is selling, and that's a volume approach. So it usually has a lot of Facebook ads going towards it, and it doesn't rely on the relationships that Daryl was talking about and Paula was mentioning, that we needed to build a tribe. This is something that I don't need to know you. I just need to think, I want that thing. It's like that impulse buy. Whereas then when we're building something that's, say, a transformative experience, so something that might involve a bigger transformation or more of you and your ability to facilitate, so maybe some group coaching components, some recorded components, that tends to, the bigger the transformation, the higher the price tag. So it's a real rule of thumb, but you'll see these $27 courses and they're part of a bigger strategy, and then you'll see sort of that $997 to say $1,997 type marks, $1,000 to $2,000 range. They'll tend to sit as the signature course, which is, like I say, that a deeper transformation, more contact time, and higher sort of expectation out of that. But like I say, market, knowing your market and what that price point is for them is going to be down to sort of really that customer research wherever you can. Does that help, Marie?
Yeah, amazing. I wrote half the page from all of that.
Oh, she's good. She's good. Cheryl, just very quickly, just let everybody know here, Cheryl operates out of Barakat, but she runs a business where they are actually are a little bit like a labour hire business, but I think without the sharps. And Cheryl is involved in a lot of community stuff, and I know you locally there, and you do a lot of social media work, don't you, for all of the community groups you're part of?
Yeah, for different community groups.
Yeah. And if anybody's around, what's the month of that fabulous wine show that we came down for? What is it called?
The Jardinup Bull and Barrel Festival.
Don't miss it, folks. Don't miss it. It's absolutely amazing.
Hopefully we'll be able to run it this year. That'll be the only issue.
Yeah. Morning. Can we all just put a thought of our mind to people around the world who are really doing it tough with this horrendous pandemic that has been imposed on us, and not least of all the UK. It's just absolutely decimated, and how lucky we are to be living in this fabulous country, and particularly this part of this fabulous country, because we're all still able to engage with what our passions are. We're not completely overwhelmed by the fear of one of us, contracting COVID and never coming out of hospital and dying alone. I think we are so lucky. So I think it's a time to be grateful for this type of session, for the people that we connect with, and this fabulous country we live in. So I just wanted to throw that into the mix. Again, that's lecture number 2, guys. So unless there's any other questions, we'll probably call this to an end, but everyone's going to connect afterwards, and it was really exciting, and thank you all for coming on board.
Thanks so much for having us in.
My absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Angie. Much appreciated.
Oh, it's lovely to have you, Alta, and I'm really glad that I knew that Lisa would be quite amazing for all of you. She blows my mind every time I have a conversation with her. So, well, keep going, everybody, keep focusing, and maybe we might see you next week, where we actually have the lovely Annette Stanton is going to talk to us next week about our mindset and how we might be in tune with what makes us who we are, and remember how we got to who we are, and that will drive us forward. So we'll see you all next week, maybe, if you're not too busy. Good luck with your editing, Paula. Your lunch break is over. Go back to work.
I'm avoiding it.
Hello, I just spotted your question in the comments as well, so I have just flicked you a quick answer.
Yes, I just noticed that as well.
Just in the nick of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, I'm going to try. I keep recording these Zooms and losing them on my computer somewhere. So if I can find this one, are you all happy for this recording to be shared?
Yes.
Everybody happy? Yeah, great. So if I can share it, I'll share it with you guys first. How's that?
Wonderful.
If I can find it, that is. Bye, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll stay online, Ange.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angie.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.